So is it any surprise that the biggest synagogue in the country, the Central Synagogue in Bondi here in Sydney, has been asking the Prime Minister to come and speak for 6 months? Of course, 6 months ago was when this war started on October the 7th. That entire 6 months, they've been asking the PM to come and say a few words. It's only half an hour away from Kirribilli House. It's not that big of a drive, but he cannot get it together and go down and say a few simple words. Now, I remember when all of this broke out and we were talking about the fact that at that point he hadn't gone and spoken at a synagogue, and it took him weeks to go to any synagogue at all. As far as I'm aware, he's only made one appearance in that time. How hard would it be to go down to the biggest synagogue in the country, whether you believe it or not, and I tend to think that the Prime Minister probably doesn't, but he would know about diplomacy and just looking like you're doing something, if nothing else? How hard can it be?
Well, it's very difficult because it's a scheduling issue. I mean, there's tennis games to attend, there's a Taylor Swift concert you've got to go to.
There's private jets
there's
to
private
a presser
jets to announce
that you
the
could have
launch
stayed
of
in
solar
Canberra
farms.
for.
There's the Sikh New Year that Anthony Albanese showed up to celebrate.
Oh, him in his turban. Have we got those photos?
I'm not sure if we've got a photograph or not. It's worth
We currently have a Prime Minister who is a shill. He is perfectly happy to don the garb and celebrate the important events. This was the Sikh New Year with any other culture. But if you're a Westerner or Israelis here in Australia, which we would count as Westerners, nah, sorry, can't make it to your synagogue. Not even the largest in Australia, and not any time within 6 months. This guy is an absolute shill. I am sick of us voting for people who clearly don't love this nation and the people in it, and then play favourites when they get in there. I understand shilling for votes. I've worked for politicians before. I know that that is your passport to your future if you want to stay in the seat. But, like you say, Caleb, what does it cost you to rock up at the synagogue and say, by the way, we stand with you, the Jewish community in Australia? I am so sorry for the horrendous things that have happened here and overseas as the anti-Semitism just keeps wave after wave in our own nation. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned anti-Semitism, and I mean, every time Anthony Albanese talks about the need for social cohesion and the need for the country to come together and for us to take strong action against anti-Semitism, but yet won't go and speak to a 2,000-strong congregation.
Tells you everything.
What'd you say? Half an hour's drive from Kirribilli House?
You called it a mosque, James.
Sorry,
don't call it a mosque.
20 minutes.
That's a fatal error. A synagogue, and 20-minute drive, he won't make it. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about where his priorities are. And this is the good thing to come out of this situation. At least the Jewish community in this country now know who their friends are and who their friends are not.
And we should note, by the way, that Baisakhi, the Sikh New Year event, that was 4 days ago. So it's not as though he doesn't have the capacity to go to cultural and religious events right now. That was 4 days ago.
And, like, how's your priority?
I know.
I didn't know that the Sikhs were under fire in their own country and here at home. Like, thanks for prioritising that. Not? What the heck?
And he would not be the first politician to walk both sides of the fence. And it's not... The problem for Albanese is that he has...
But this isn't even both sides of the fence, Caleb. He's clearly on one side.
No, I know.
Just go to the synagogue.
No. That's what I'm saying. We know that philosophically for a long time he has stood with Palestine. But the synagogue is inviting him. They're not inviting him to throw stones at him. They're not inviting him to throw rotten fruit at him. They're actually inviting him to come and sit down and have a chat. So he can walk the both sides of the fence. We all know what he thinks. But he can still go along, accept the invitation gracefully, and say, look, I thoroughly deplore anti-Semitism. It's not hard to do while also believing what he actually believes in. But he can't even do that. That is the mark of who this man is. If in 6 months you can't find 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes to go down to the biggest synagogue in the country and say something, like, they're reaching the hand out. Just take the hand, buddy. How hard can it be?
Maybe the reason why he can't, though, is because he's now far too busy saying stuff like this.
We consistently have said that in the Middle East there needs to be a two-state solution. The right of Israel to exist within secure borders without being threatened by organisations like Hamas that are committed to the destruction of Israel. It has no role to play in the Middle East, but we need justice for Palestinians.
That's him defending Foreign Minister Penny Wong, who's now calling for a two-state solution. Clearly, these people don't know the Palestinian Authority has never wanted a two-state solution. That's why they've turned it down every single time Israel has come to the table. Israel has agreed to make painful concessions for this two-state solution. It is the Palestinians every time who have said no. Just 15 years ago, they were offered 99% of what they wanted. They said no. Just like Yasser Arafat did at Oslo. It has always been the Palestinians saying no to the two-state solution. So who in their right mind is still pushing this as any kind of solution? And also, given the stats on how many people in Gaza still support Hamas, they're not turned off by recent events whatsoever. Who do you think they would elect if you made the mistake? And they're like, oh, two-state solution, as long as Hamas doesn't get any authority or say in it. Are you people serious? That is who the people of Gaza will elect. They've already told you so.